Um, Good evening, everyone, and we welcome you to the Feed Friday Future Fit series, episode 4. This is our fourth episode for the series, and we have been very excited with the response that we've received for the past three episodes. We really appreciate your encouragement and support that you've given us throughout this month, and we would really want to have this continued support and encouragement from you to be able to deliver to our best of our abilities. The Feed Friday series aims to converse with impactful future fit leaders, building a successful organizations, empowering people, supporting growth, and evolving together as a community. The current times have been turbulent, to say the least. Managing, planning, preparing, taking quick decisions to somehow sustain and continue floating has been the key focus areas for almost all business leaders. It's always said that a future fit leader is more energetic and therefore more productive, with the ability to outperform their competitors. The leaders need to be on the top of the things across several aspects of businesses, teams, competition, stakeholders, customers, and so on. At this time, leaders are tempted to dedicate every waking hour to the business at hand and almost forgetting that they are also the center of their own business. And it's essential to spend some time with ourselves. With this awakening consciousness of the mind, body, and soul, we are looking forward to gauging a deeper knowledge, understanding, and experiences of our guest speaker regarding the leadership quotient of a future fit leader. We are looking forward to having an interacting conversation with our leader today, and we shall have a quick leader insight with the audience queries. In order to make the process more smoother, I would request all of the participants to kindly frame your questions and put them in the chat box as we move along in the conversation. Further, I would also request all participants to please fill up the form that has been sent on the chat form for the feedback and to have you on board and so that we can keep informing you of our future sessions. Thank you. With this, I will now pass on to Swati to introduce the organizations and introduce our guest speakers.
Thanks, Priyanka. Welcome once again to the Feed Friday Future Fit Leaders Series, episode 4. I'm pleased to briefly introduce the team and organizations working to make Feed Friday series a success. I'm proud to present Future Lista Consulting Partners, a boutique consulting firm offering comprehensive HR solutions and services to the corporates. We work together as transformation partners, empowering talent, transforming businesses, and creating a future ready organization. The unique 4C model to predict performance and deliver through speed, execution, and excellence is key to Future Lista's enduring success. I'm also happy to state that Future Lista is working with a social impact by collaborating with the SAFE Foundation, which is a not for profit organization. The SAFE Foundation aims to create an inclusive ecosystem for persons with disabilities to enable them become productive contributors of the society by use of assistive technology and artificial intelligence tools. With an aim to drive mental health and well-being initiatives for corporates, Future Lista has partnered with My Safe Space, an organization aiming to spread awareness, rethink the way we look at mental health, and to build a community that reminds us we are not alone. My Safe Space is an inclusive platform that provides comprehensive knowledge, hands on techniques, and professional help for all mental health related concerns for you and your loved ones. To access not only traditional mental health services, but also contemporary approaches and expressive therapies. It's my privilege today to also introduce our guest speaker for the day, who is a woman leader with diverse, multifunctional, and multicultural experience of working with Fortune 100 MNCs as well as Indian startups, a very unique combination. At a very young age, she has been on board of prestigious and world's most admired company, Procter& and Gamble's joint venture in Malaysia, and she takes pride in turning around that business. Her passion, ownership, drive for results, finding solutions, and making things happen with the motto, just do it, defines her persona. She leads with compassion, empathy, extensively works towards breaking taboos, stigmas, and running business for a social cause. As a speaker and coach at various MBA schools and in current times, she's trying to be there for all those who are fighting the pandemic in their small ways as she can. A fitness buff, a mother of two, she wears many hats, of which include an indulgent tiger mom, being a stickler for rules, yet full of bubbly energy herself, boss lady, being a business leader with a 3-year-old startup that has been a mover and shaker in personal hygiene space. She's also an advisor to some startups. We warmly welcome the Chief Executive Officer, Niine Hygiene and Personal Care, Miss Richa Singh. Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for such a warm welcome. And I was all smiles as I was listening to this. Thank you once again for having me here.
Welcome you.
Thank you, Richa. Thanks. And like Swati welcomed you, a very warm welcome to the Feed Friday Future Fit series. And we are extremely elated and excited to have you on board and have this conversation with you. As today happens to be the World Menstruation Hygiene Day, the theme of this year also is to take action and to take action and investment in health and menstrual hygiene. So, with this awakening, we want to have this conversation with you and take forward this discussion, getting your inputs into how you've worked in this domain and how you're a dynamic leader in your particular field. So, I would now give the floor to Swati to please take on the discussion forward. Thank you.
Thanks, Priyanka. And always a pleasure to have you, Richa, especially on this day, which is very significant for your being on board a woman leader. And as you see, we are all women today interacting with another woman leader. It's a pride to have you. So, where I want to begin a conversation with you today, understanding that you've worked in various areas, including the top-notch MNCs to startups. There's a whole lot of experience and journey that you've been traversing all through. And this is also an era that has actually seen a rise in the entrepreneurial spirit amongst the people from startups to acquisitions, mergers, we see joint ventures, JVs happening, and so on and so forth. Your personal journey for Niine Hygiene and Personal Care has been revolutionary in an important yet suppressed domain of women health. Keeping in mind your experience, including the opportunities and challenges that you've been juggling with, what would your suggestions be to new organizations to thrive, especially in times of turbulence, while constructively imbibing change and harnessing success? Over to you, Richa.
Swati, a very interesting question. Yes, we're seeing a lot of startups. Most startups, all startups, they start with a very, very passionate and driven kind of teams of founders. Usually, there's a great idea that they can really visualize, that they can monetize, right? Most of them today are trained thanks to a lot of consultants, help, peers in making business plans, which can be presented with some risk scenarios, right? And as they sort of build on it, a lot of positivity comes in that yes, we can make it happen, right? But it's really an unexplored territory, right? A lot can go wrong, which a simple scenario planning cannot factor in. So I do want to highlight some probably 3 or 4 derailers that can really throw a startup off guard. And I would say that unless you have the bandwidth, the backbone to be able to, continue to fuel your idea, both in terms of funding and energy, do not get into this zone. It's a very fulfilling zone, yet it's tough. The biggest one that we all know is funding. It is critical to the success of a startup. When we are making a business plan, we think of several cases: base case scenario, best case scenario, worst case scenario, but there's so much more that can go wrong. Firstly, something that we are never able to quantify is what if we struggle to get the talent that we need to be able to take this on further? What if the kind of people we get on board, including the core founders, are not cohesive enough to deliver the results needed in the stipulated time? That's the biggest derailer. Your environment is constantly changing. I do know quite a few startups last 2, 3 years went for a little bit of a toss when GST came in because that changed the
Hmm.
game on working capital. Currently, people who are importing from China, there are huge delays. Working capital requirements are going up again because of that. This like the current COVID situation. There is a cash crunch. There is a liquidity constraint, which is again throwing a lot of things off track. So over here again, I would say that when you're thinking of this idea, and if you think it's going to cost X, be ready for 2x to 3x. Draw up a plan for people who can fund you or come to your rescue so that you can at least take this idea to a sustainable size before you go off track or before this funding becomes a derailer. The second biggest one, it's really people. To drive a startup beyond the founders, you really need each and every employee that brings with her or him huge amount of energy, huge amount of passion, and unity in that vision. In a startup, it's not that I'm a finance person, I am a marketing person. We are here, we have to deliver the mission. The delivery man doesn't come, you go and do the delivery. So that energy has to be there. A startup soaks energy, bandwidth, a lot of you. And no university or no MNC can teach you all of this. It's just something that's within you. So finding these kind of employees is really critical. A bit of luck, a bit of trial, a bit of really looking out for the right kind of talent. And then probably thirdly, you know, uh, fine, we believe in an idea. We are very positive people as entrepreneurs, right? Are we really doing a good check on that whole product value consumer proposition? Do we have the right product? Are we able to offer it at the right price? Do we have the financial arsenal and the think tank with us to be able to communicate to the consumer and generate enough trials? And even if you're able to generate a lot of trials, then I'll finally say probably the fourth factor, do we have an idea that will keep a consumer hooked?
Hmm.
That'll keep that consumer coming back to my idea. At Nine, I won't say that we were ready from day one. We had thought it all. These are all my learnings working with Nine. It's just that, yes, we've been privileged. We've been lucky that, yes, we've been able to manage the funding. The founders have taken huge risks. We've been blessed by finding very good employees who've stuck with the vision, stayed united, and brought Nine to the place we are here today.
Amazing. I mean, what I understand, the four factors that you have so beautifully narrated. I think the one essence that I can draw from these four factors is that no matter whatever are the challenges or the derailers, whether it's economy, sometimes the environment that we are in, which is very dynamic, or diseases like, I mean, the pandemics, which happens in a century or does not, should not ideally happen in a century, also derails everything. But one thing is that stick to your idea, believe in it. First of all, I think rest everything that what you're saying while you're building the startup, it has to fall through because you know your idea. And of course, the key stakeholder, your own customer, the preferences and the repeat success. The repeat purchase is something that is what gives you a consistency and stability and constant improvement to what you have been doing. I think one thing that I learned in this conversation or I understood was that continuously keep on improving. It's not that you started with something and you would end into that only, but maybe in this process there would be a
Yes.
lot of improvements that would be required. So coming
Creativity
from
and
a
adaptability is the key. Yes.
absolutely openness, flexibility, so many things that comes to the conversation. And I think at Future Lista being a startup, it absolutely resonates when we are not one, two, three, four, five, but we are all working in all the areas. Nobody is a specialist, but at the same time, everybody is, a specialist in some domain, but becoming a generalist. So thank you very much, Richa. It's really interesting to know. And I think as we move forward, we'll have more and more of learning with you. At the moment, I would request Priyanka to take the conversation forward.
Thank you. Thank you, Swati, for giving this to me. And thank you, Richa, for sharing your views on that. I think talking about adaptability and talking about the dynamic self and the dynamic horizons, I would like to propose the next question to you. As a developing country that India is, and where we've seen that from talking about personal hygiene to now feeling as a women, we feel now entitled, to be able to get that support from our employers or to be able to support other women in handling their challenges and talking about menstruation or even getting counseling for, let's say, hormones and menopause. Deepening this perspective, how you as a women leader would like to describe your experience through these past decades of being able to build an empathetic workforce where you can openly discuss and support mental health rather than shying away.
Priyanka, I would like to say a little more. Yes, changes are happening. Today, the fact that we are having this dialogue in a, open forum, of course, says a lot about that.
Absolutely.
However, India still is far away, from being where it can be openly or widely acceptable fact that yes, menstruation is healthy.
Mhm.
You see a lot of change in urban areas where you go to a shop and you see these sanitary napkins nicely stacked in the product windows and on display. But if you go a little inward into the interiors, you'll still
Mhm.
find a lot of shopkeepers not even willing to stock sanitary napkins. The distribution of sanitary napkins is probably one-tenth that of baby diapers. And the drivers are many. The drivers is one, of course, reluctance of the retailers to keep it in their shop and handle the product. The second big one, and the worrisome factor, is that a lot of these women consider this to be a very personal situation where they cannot go and spend 25, 30 rupees every month on something they were told to hide about, not share with men or even women, not talk about it. Even though they have the means and money to spend the 30 rupees a month, they are reluctant to do that. So there's low demand in a lot of parts of the country for this. We still stand, as per AC Nielsen, at 18% penetration of the category. If I add in the government supply to schools and all the good effort the NGOs are doing, maybe this number would be at 35, 36, right? Still a large part of country does not use it, and there is stigma. If I now come to the privileged society and you're talking about corporates, luckily, I've been blessed by working in corporates where menstruation was never a taboo. It was also because I started my career in Procter and Gamble. It was all whisper. You had male brand managers trying out the product and whatnot. So it was a very open dialogue, right? However, still, I did see for a long time that whenever a woman was on period, there would be hiding of the napkin and then then walking to the toilet. So I do feel, before I address the question on corporates, I do want to say this today, that a lot of companies, the large companies and companies like us, really need to do a due to the society and focus more on social marketing. Pure media advertisements and TV advertisements are not what's going to change this habit. You have to work at the grassroots level, let these women try out these products. You have to break the stigma, even for it to be comfortable for a city woman, break the stigma at childhood level in the schools. Let girls and boys understand that menstruation is normal. There should be no shying away for a girl to walk to the toilet with a napkin, and no boy should find it awkward or crack a joke. He should know a girl needs it. It's as simple as that. And that's the kind of change we need to drive. So that's more about, the stigmas and the shackles. But coming to your question on entitlement and talk about period leave, talking about how corporates are addressing it. See, as far as fitness goes, it's great. It's good to be addressing this concern openly. It's good to be compassionate. I am a woman, okay, but I do not endorse the whole concept of period leave. We somewhere then start moving towards entitlement and still considering periods which are not a normal part of women's life. I would say educate your girl or woman to ensure she stays fit and healthy. I don't deny the fact that there's some periods which are very tough, and yes, that day a sick leave might be needed, or you might need to take a few hours off. But if there's a girl or a woman who regularly has painful periods or excessive bleeding, it's time she sees a doctor. Periods should be a very normal part of life. When I'm on period, I'll be open about it. I still try to exercise as much as I do normally. Yes, I might have an extra snack to keep up the energy level, but that's about it. So I wouldn't want this to become an entitlement. I do hope it becomes a normal part of everyone's being without any embarrassment.
Thanks a lot, Richa. I think what you shared is extremely powerful, and what you've brought to our attention is that it needs to change from the grassroots level, and also it needs to change from very young people to normalize things, to not to not have it as an exclusive things and feel exclusive about it, to rather have it something as a part and parcel of normal everyday life. And like I was asking, and like you rightly mentioned, that this is what impacts our well-being. Being able to say it out loud what I really feel and how I feel with just as much security and comfort of it, that is what will really impact my well-being. So thanks, Richa, for sharing your inputs. And with this, I would now pass the floor to Swati to take the discussion forward. Thanks.
Thanks, Priyanka. And Richa, while you were talking about stigma, I
Mhm.
mean, coming from that era of stigma to this era where we are openly conversing about it, and it's just normal that it is actually it is normal, as simple as that. It's one of the things that happens, and that's it. So I think I have seen both the sides when talking about stigmas hiding in the house with your siblings, with your father, with your grandfather, and then coming to a space in the organization where, in fact, I recall that in my one of these stints in the corporate, we also had a survey and in engagement on the employee engagement, and the women folk in the organization actually asked very openly in this survey, though in this survey, that at least we can have sanitary napkins placed at the washroom. Sometimes we do miss it. I, being a women HR leader, they were unable to even reach out to me. So I realized that the taboos and the stigmas are so much, but yes, we actually tried to break it off by talking in the company meeting about it. And I think that's something which I really like, that this is one of the ways. And if a man is stepping up, it's actually you've already done that inclusivity, and you've already kind of destigmatizing happens from there. You set the tone. So I totally endorse your idea of not just going for the entitlement of period leave, or things that would be excluding a gender. I think being women leaders, we really want to be more inclusive ourselves as well as the co-gender. So that's one interesting. So I think the with this conversation that we've been taking, it's all the more interesting and exciting, and I'm actually eager to talk a little bit here or share my views and request to seek your views on inclusivity. And my discussion points are like this. How would you like to define the nature of work in contemporary workplace? And how can the workplace be redesigned, especially with these new age millennials, Z, gigs, neo gigs, and so on joining the workplaces? We would really like to know your insights towards integration and inclusion of highly diverse workforce, not limiting to gender, age, race, ethnicity, but also building inclusivity for persons with disabilities.
This is something very close to my heart for multiple reasons. Firstly, if I describe today's workplace, over the last 20 years, everything has become so technology driven. Of course, there's this whole digital world which has different kinds of tools, platforms, data. Big data now is a thing of the past. It's all integrated into our lives and IoT and all of that. So it's all very, very digitalized. And yes, this whole social media, e-commerce, all of it, you name it, it's there, and it has to be integrated into our corporate environment for a company to succeed, right? In each and every function aspect, whatever we are living. And let's face it, we as leaders have grown up in a very different era where we were studying with notebooks and pencils and pens, and this was all science fiction that we are living in right now, right?
Mhm.
And then when I think about it, look, I have so much to learn. Can I always be going for a training? No. So whom do I learn from? I learn from people around me, and who are those people? It's the Gen Z, and the youngsters who can actually teach me about it. And I'll be very upfront and transparent here that in my zeal, I did hire quite a few Gen Z and younger people. Well, it was a nightmare to be very open about it. Yet, we figured our way. Yes, some of them left. It was a hard learning for me also to adapt my style. Now, the way I would describe them is they do come in with a sense of, I know it all. I'm good.
Mhm.
I need to contribute. I need to see the larger picture. What is it that the company is going to do for me? I won't really say it's a huge sense of entitlement. Maybe some of them border there, but it's a different zone. When we went to work, we would be like, how does my boss perceive me? Will I be able to do this? That fear, that hunger in the belly used to be there, which somewhere misses. Um, so it's a good integration of the two, where we develop our styles, we try to make them feel a little more fulfilled. Yet, what they can pick up from us is a little bit more humility, a little bit more of roughing it out and learning, putting this aside that I know it all, right? Neither do I know it all, neither do you. We have to learn from each other and coexist, and a corporate cannot ignore this. It's not only our social responsibility to integrate them, they are our future consumers. They are the ones who will be running the organization. As leaders, we need to groom them, and we have to keep them very close to our heart. Otherwise, we are alienating our consumers if we don't understand how this generation works. So definitely, I mean, with my learnings, I'm still eagerly looking forward to getting some more of them into my organization. It's awesome to have them. Once the settlement has happened, it's great. It works out very well. And I think you also talked about being more inclusive and diverse. So I will talk a little bit about that. While we've talked about gender diversity and race and all of that, I do feel a lot of us, and especially India, has a lot more that it can do to be more inclusive at the workplace for the differently abled. And before I say what is it that corporates can do, corporates are trying to employ such people. However, the huge issue comes that they end up being the lower paid, the lower level workforce as of now, more so because they've not been able to receive the right education or training. And, again, I'll talk about technology over here. Technology can be a big enabler. We do need our government, we do need a lot of private educational institutes to figure out way how technology can complement people with different abilities. Right? I mean, analytics are here now. There's so much that can be done as an individual contributor for a person who's mute, for a person who is hearing impaired, right? He doesn't really have to now communicate via spoken communication. There are so many other ways. Similarly, for maybe people with autism or those kind of disabilities, they are very creative people. Visual arts and so much of technology can come to their aid, and they can get better paying, well paying jobs and meaningfully contribute to us. So I would say over there, the ownership as of now really lies in setting up the right educational institutes and systems so these people can flourish. We are far away from it.
Fantastic. I was really lost in when you were talking about the whole contemporary workplace, and it was like there was really everything was just kind of moving around, saying that, your openness. What I liked most in this conversation that we are doing is your openness to learn, unlearn, learn, and relearn. It's very, very evident that, when you're talking about these becoming the future leaders, and we have to also learn from them. And it is likewise. I think most importantly, if leaders like you have the very clear understanding that there's a reverse mentoring, or we say it's unlearning phase also at times, and we have to be open. I think it's very easy for them as well as us to then together say we know it all, rather than individual generations would talk about it, because either or would not be complete if this does not happen. So I think very beautifully you articulated the integration, and a lot of learning that we are getting from you in terms of building the diversity, not excluding any gender, and not only the gender but also coming and building towards the PWDs. I think very interestingly, the Safe Foundation, where I am the founder and the CEO to the organization, they're also working on building the assistive technologies and the AI tools. I think that's the need of the hour. So what I am inferring in this conversation with you is that it's not about inclusivity alone, but accessibility for them as well as for the organization to have this integration happen is going to make it work together. So including them and making it accessible for them is also equally important, as we are going to include them and believe in what skill sets they have, because all of us have something or the other very exceptional. Fantastic going. Great knowing more and more about you, Richa, and the leadership insights that you're bringing to the forum. I'm sure Priyanka is eager to take the next one and talk more about the democratic leadership. Over to you, Priyanka.
Thank you, Swati. And like you said, I was excited. The conversation has been exciting, and like you mentioned, Richa, I think I really resonated to the fact that you said that how we need to teach humility, and it's a responsibility of the leaders today to be able to pass on these values and these learnings to the next generation. So having said that, and passing on the values, you'll also be passing on some responsibilities, and like we said, making the leadership more and more democratic. Um, with this idea, I would also like to mention that how each individual's contribution is vital to the leadership, to the leader's overall success. It is important for us to contribute towards their growth and their becoming a better and a more successful person. With this, I would like to introduce a question to you. That is that how can we destigmatize mental health in the domain of uh, corporates, and how can we increase the importance of mental health and well-being towards organizations at large?
Okay. I would say this, yes, a start has happened, a beginning is there, and probably the current situation over the last 1.5, 2 years of COVID, where a lot of people have lost lives, they've been under a lot of stress, has made it easier for organizations to talk about mental health. But I do feel that, just including it in the agenda or doing it, say, once in a month in an employee talk is not going to get us where we want to be.
Mhm,
I agree there's a lot of stigma around this. A lot of leaders, and sometimes, yeah, we make that mistake. When we try to motivate our troops, we say, oh, what's depression? I don't get depressed. Let's stay charged. It's all in your mind. Just move it, just do it, and all of that. What we do when we say that, we really distance our employees who might be struggling from us. We make it so much more difficult as an organization to really address the problem. And then later, if we feel an employee's productivity is coming down, to really have an honest conversation.
mhm,
Most of the leaders are well in their late 30s, early 40s. They've led a big part of their lives. They've gone through ups and downs. Most of us, let's admit, we are humans. We never have a very stable life. We go through ups and downs. There are times when a lot of us have really gone through a tough phase. Maybe we've also lost it. We've had a really bad setback. And maybe we've either developed our own coping mechanisms or gone to a therapist or sought medical help, right? It's time we come up front and in these forums or in our closed groups of employees, immediate reportees, we talk about it. Let's be transparent and honest, have those conversations. Once I was going through this tough phase in my life, this is how I dealt with it. This is what happened to me. And my therapist told me, well, when this happens, there is a physiological change in the body. There's a chemical imbalance that happens in your mind. And sometimes you do need those tablets and you need to see your psychiatrist. The minute you start having those conversations, if and when you see your employees slip, you can have more direct and constructive conversations with them that, hey, it's time for you to really see a doctor. Companies have enrolled gym memberships. They put up nice gyms and offices, and they all take off very well. Because physical fitness, everyone likes to embrace. They like to show that, yes, I am physically, I'm a fitness freak. I like to work it out, etc., etc. It becomes a ground where you build friendships and build relationships. However, whenever there, I've seen in my own experience, when companies have come up with helplines or initiatives of mental health clinics,
mhm,
employees do not opt for these because of some inbuilt
mhm.
stigma, right? The minute we start laughing about it and accepting it as part of life, I think that's going to change. And it's very important.
Thanks, Richa. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I think you are a protagonist of this. Talking about it, if it helps eliminate the difficulty, of an individual coming across their own problems, I think you are definitely a leader in that domain. And mental health is one of those sensitive issues which is so common amongst us. And it is like physical health, it is like your normal health. It's okay to talk about it. But you rightly mentioned there's a lot of stigma, and it's that thought that I don't want to be associated with someone who has a depression, whereas it never comes to us that I don't want to be associated as someone who has a fever or a cough. So we definitely need to break that, and I think leaders like yourself will be definitely creating that revolutionary response in people and incorporating the right change that we need, which is the need of the hour as well. Thank you, Richa. With this, I would now let Swati continue the conversation with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Priyanka. And I know it's very difficult, Priyanka, for you to just talk a little bit on mental health and well being while you're doing so much in this area. So
Yeah.
thank you very much for passing it on to me. And Richa, I've been hearing you and, this whole conversation about destigmatizing, taboo. I think one thing that comes to my mind naturally for you is you walk the talk. You are a leader who is actually doing what is required and is a role model to most of the people around you, whether it's your own kids, or whether it's the external circle, or whether it's the business. This is what I am perceiving about you, and I'm
Thank
really
you so
liking
much.
that. Yeah, I'm really liking that conversation with you so far. So I think, just in the interest of that, we are moving. Yeah, in the interest of the next conversation, taking it to the next level. One thing that strikes me, while you being a fitness buff, while you being doing everything on all the quotients, it's mind, body, and soul. I would put it as a balance for a leader, which is very important. I mean, it's not. There is no hesitation if I have a problem, whether it's with relation to my mind, or mentally I'm somewhere disturbed, or I'm going for a physical problem. So I think something around that, you've been trying to maintain that, and if one of it is imbalanced, you know that it is there, you're aware, and you want to get it fixed. My next point of conversation in this is that many times, we are fixing priorities. There's so much that we have to do day to day. There are so many decisions, strategic as well as operational, that as a CEO you have to take, and it's sometimes kind of submerges the leader's attention, and they almost forget at times that they, or here you, Richa, are also your own business, and it's essential to spend time with yourself as well. How do you, as a person, keep yourself balanced while ensuring harmony of body, mind, and soul as a fitness conscious woman leader? Several roles that you play on an everyday basis.
I'll be very honest and transparent here in the spirit of us talking about mental health. Um, there have been times when I have slipped. Okay, there have been times when I suddenly gained not only 2, 3 kgs, but maybe even 10 kgs. Okay, while going through some tough personal phases. Yes, there have been times when I've sunk in deep into constant stress or worry. Luckily, I've been surrounded by friends and people who've pointed this out to me, and I've learned to bounce out. Of course, over years, there's been a constant journey of learning. The first book that I read was, and I'm forgetting the author, it was called The Road Less Traveled.
Hmm.
And it was all about mental fitness. I loved that book. I did try to imbibe a few values from there of how to bounce out, how to take a break. And yeah, I did start practicing some of it. The second big training I went for, and I've been an avid follower of that till date, was Corporate Athlete. It's based on the book called Powerful Engagement by James and Tony. I think I went for that training maybe 15 or 16 years ago. And that's where they actually talk about your body and your whole, you as a person being a system of your body, soul, and mind, and how all three really need to be in harmony for you to function good as a corporate athlete. It talks about being happy, staying happy, creating happiness around you. It talks about eating and putting in the right fuel in your body so that your body functions in the right way and fuels the right kind of fuel to your mind so that your mind can be at the optimum best. It also talks about physical exercise and fitness. And yes, those are the things that I've incorporated. I've always tried since then to maintain a good fitness regime. There's one more thing I'd like to say on that. It's easy as business people to really draw a comparison to even business on an organization and try to understand. An organization is built like a body. We put in certain protocols, processes, and we leave it, right? It will flourish for a while. Similarly, your body, your parents have brought you up, you now move into your own life, you start working, you ignore a few things. There are enough reserves in the body to make you last a while. But if you don't keep renewing it, it's bound to crash. If you don't constantly create happiness around you, your mind is likely to slip. If you ignore your fitness, sooner or later ailments will crop in. And if you feed yourself a lot of junk, trust me, it
Hmm.
won't last long. Something or the other will catch up. So those are the principles I've always tried to imbibe. I eat healthy, I work out every day. For me, it's very important to have mini vacations, probably once in 2, 3 months, where I just go and trek with my kids, really work out over there, have a lot of physical exercise, eat, indulge that time. Really have fun. Chocolates, ice cream, every done thing. Once we are back home, I make sure I come back to my fitness regime. At work, also, there are stressful moments. There are few organizations where we went through a lot of setbacks where I've worked in. If you talk to my teams there, and we are still together because we shared this common bond, we always created happiness together. As leaders, we owe it to ourselves and to the organizations and to our families to stay positive and create that positivity.
Fabulous. I think one thing that resonates with me as a person also is that you are very disciplined. I mean, to the extent that if you are going out and maybe enjoying having that bubbly time with your family or with your team members, you make it a point that you come back, but you try and balance it out or even it out. I think that's something which is very, very nicely you narrated the road less traveled to the other books and the other trainings that you have taken, and how you we all probably go for trainings, but how do we apply that in our real life is something that is very important. And as again, I would pick up the conversation saying that you walk the talk. You're a leader who actually does it, and it is already evident in the conversations. Fabulous to hear you, and I think we can go on and on, Richa. The way the conversation is going on, it's really difficult to hand it over to Pranka or Ragini. Also, I really want to know more. That's the feeling I get, but nonetheless, we have to respect the time. And I would just like to acknowledge few of the members who've been giving us very interesting responses on the chats, and they've been really talking great about you. But few that I could recognize, we have another women leader in the program is Nimisha Gia, and she's the CEO of Wellspan. So welcome, Nimisha, for this conversation, to this conversation with our woman leader, Ms. Richa, and we also have Rajiv Pretoria, who's been uh, I would say he actually is the encouragement and support to this series. He was there from episode 1 where he was the speaker, and he continues to be with us. And I'm sure Rajiv, you would be there on and on for the series. We also have our future speaker,
Absolutely,
Mr. Vijay.
absolutely. That, yeah.
Thanks, Rajiv. We also have Mr. Vijay there with us. So just wanted to acknowledge few of the people I could read
Thank
in
you.
the
Hello,
chat.
everyone.
Yeah, hi.
Hi.
Hi,
So
everyone.
Thank
Hello,
you so much
Richa.
for
Hi,
being here
everyone.
and taking out time. Thank you.
Yes.
thank you. And I'm sure Ragini and Priyanka want to snatch it away from me.
I
Not
just
physically, verbally. Yes, please go ahead, Priyanka and
definitely,
Ragini. Thanks,
absolutely.
Richa. We look forward to hear you more through Priyanka and Ragini.
Thank you so much, Swati. And yes, you were very right. There were definitely so many things that came to my mind once we had this discussion about such prominent ideas and about how encouraging you've been through Richa, and how discipline and how your strong ideas are not only it is that you hold them, but you're also able to constructively pass them on to other people who are able to make the best use of it. And like Swati mentioned, that yes, we've been working significantly in mental health, and that has I'm a psychologist myself in My Safe Space, the CEO and one of the directors and the founder for My Safe Space, along with Ragini. And at My Safe Space also, what we wish to do is to destigmatize mental health and to work towards creating this inclusive environment where we can talk about issues, and where we also are getting a lot of inspiration from you, because our ultimate aim is also to destigmatize this area and to promote more and more people to be able to talk about it and bring in that awareness and create a community where we all feel that no one is really alone and we're there to support one another. So thanks, Richa. You definitely have been an inspiration. And I would now pass on to Ragini to take the conversation forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Priyanka and Swati. And yes, like you rightly said, like I think being a young woman entrepreneur myself, this conversation's been really insightful for me personally. But in view of respecting time, I would like to take in the next round, which is a rapid fire round. So I think this is the most exciting round of a conversation where Mr. Richa, you have to answer my questions with the first thing that pops up into your mind, and it could be like in one word or one line, not much. And I'll be asking you
Sounds
10
this sounds
questions.
like this Karan Johar's coffee with
Coffee
Karan.
with
So
Karan.
I'm going to take this liberty of picking up a cup of coffee that was lying for a while and
Yes,
get
so
some
let's
caffeine
begin
boost for your rapid fire.
Coffee with Feed Friday series.
Yeah, right.
So the first question would be, how would you define a fit leader in one word?
Dependable.
That's great. List 5 of your core values that you most resonate with.
Okay. Humility, resilience, uh, passion, perseverance, and dedication.
Great. So the next is what has been your key strategy for professional development?
I've gone with my heart, and I would only say that when you're early on in your career, be as open to move around. Trust your bosses and your gut, and don't be restricted to one domain.
That's great advice, actually. And what average time in a week do you devote to physical exercise?
9 to 10 hours. Look, I mean, at my age, I'm really trying hard to to stay fit.
That's great, actually. Even I don't think we exercise that much. What was your mantra for personal well-being? What is your mantra for personal well-being?
Work hard, play hard, constantly recharge yourself.
And good leadership is a collective achievement. So, what's the role of your family, friends, colleagues in your success?
I would say that I've had a great support mechanism. My friends have always been there to help me unwind and recharge. My mom has been a key pillar of support, including my kids. The way they take pride in my work, they've kept me on the go.
And I
And
think
yes,
you
I cannot forget people at my workplace who've adapted a lot to work well with me and be highly productive.
And I think you mentioned even earlier in a very nonchalant manner how your friends and your colleagues have been there to kind of tell you when to seek help when you needed it, which is, I
Yeah,
think, a sign of having a very strong support system.
right.
So that brings us to our next question, which is one trait, aspect, or habit of yours that is integral to your success.
It's hard work, simple.
And so the boundary between your work and personal life is a paramount. How do you ensure the right balance, especially when physical distance between the two is minimized?
Okay, so yes, I am a very disciplined person. I take out time for myself early morning, but my work starts on time. I don't negotiate with that, and I dedicate myself completely to work during the work hours, probably somewhere in the evening between 6:37 to 8:39. It gets a little mixed up. It's either like grabbing a quick dinner or being with kids and taking calls. But really, after 8:30, maximum 9, I shut down. Then it's my time to recharge with a comedy, laugh with my kids, and just be with myself and sleep off happily.
That's actually really nice. It sounds very refreshing towards the end.
You have to switch off. You have to tell yourself that now it's over, now it's my life.
True. And how do you keep yourself focused and inspired?
Okay, I'm a person who constantly looks for challenges, and it's just always worked out for me. The current environment, the kind of businesses I've been in, there's been so much of change and challenge. It's just kept me on the go. It's not been a deliberate effort from my end to stay focused.
And how do you so gracefully manage oppositions or resentment in achieving your objectives?
Okay, this is something that one develops over time. I am very result oriented. That teaches you a lot of strategies to get what you need. It teaches you a lot of participative leadership styles that might take a little longer, but it helps you work with people so that your objectives are met and they see the brighter side of your picture.
That's great. So I think this brings us to the end of a rapid fire round. And
Oh,
I
thank
think
God I survived. Is there a
yes,
hamper for me?
it's on its
Yes.
way.
Okay, just kidding. Yeah.
So now we actually have some questions that everyone's been asking, and they've framed questions and they put it in the chat box.
Okay.
So I'll just ask you the first question of the evening, which is by Miss Nimisha, who was just introduced to us, and she asked, and the question says, "Hello, Richa. It's encouraging to see the huge success of Nine. What are the must-haves for future success? Is it sales and distribution in urban and rural markets? Is Nine looking at taking up senior leader talent for this as it moves to the next growth phase?"
Okay, so it's a mix of a lot of those things. I will go one by one. Yes, as an organization scales up, it does require constant infusion of good talent to be able to fuel that growth. We are constantly looking out for that. Recently, we've hired someone very senior to head our East Division. Sales and distribution, yes, we are working on it pretty hard. We are a FMCG player. For us, our distribution network is our strength. Unfortunately, due to COVID, there have been setbacks in our growth in South and West, where we made some progress. However, the current COVID again has set us back a little bit. So again, like I said, managing the right levels of investments, taking a call how to make things sustainable is what's going to drive our future success. But we all stay very committed and positive, and we do hope that you find our products easily down in Mumbai pretty soon. We've made a beginning over there. I have been to Wellspun once. Maybe I didn't meet you then, but I had come over for a short talk, I think 2 years back.
Thank you. I hope, Nimisha, that answered your question.
Yes, yes. Looking forward. Thank you, Richa. Thank you for answering this.
Thank you. So the next question for the evening is that what is your motivation and what keeps you going, staying fit, leading from the front, and constantly delivering superior results?
Okay. What's my motivation? Well, as a person, I am engineered to always look out, drive things. That's my genetic makeup. If I get deeper into why I am like this, maybe because of my upbringing, there was always a sense of responsibility. It started with that, and today it's just become a pure passion. I said something earlier about my support system. Yes, I have weaved a support system around myself that helps me stay so focused at work. And I will address this because there are a lot of women leaders also. It is absolutely important for your children to understand and take pride in what you do. Part of my motivation also comes from there. I'll share a very cute dialogue between me and my son. And this is a level of, that was really an aha moment as a mother for me. We were looking at the stock market, and I was just having the conversation which stock will go up, etc., this and that. And well, he's pretty young. He was 9 that time. He didn't know that Nine is not listed. And he said, Mom, you should actually invest in Nine. I said, why is that? He said, Mom, you're driving it. It'll do very well. You should buy the Nine stocks.
That's so
So,
sweet.
yes, those are my motivations. I do want to deliver. My family takes pride in what I do. That's what's driving me.
That's really sweet and that's very encouraging, especially coming from your own kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the second last question is what is the biggest challenge you face in your role?
It's really ensuring that we don't lose out on the big picture. There are day-to-day battles. Of course, we are trying to, it's a startup. There are times when we have to debate, brainstorm, agree, disagree on the kind of funds we are going to put in. There are times we are taking pricing decisions. And as a core team, we've been there together since the last 3, 4, 5 years. So it's really ensuring that after those tough decisions, with complete harmony and commitment, each one of us marches in the same direction and doesn't stop there. It's also making sure those tough decisions, which sometimes might be scaling back from a small region or not focusing on one particular product, goes in well with the junior team and they believe in your vision as well. So this to constantly trying to find ways to collaborate, keep the team united because we are at a very fragile state today.
Yeah,
We still have
especially
to grow.
considering
Yeah.
I think like a startup environment is anyway very volatile, and then with the current situation and the pandemic, it just makes things a little more complicated than they were to start with.
I don't
And
want to lose, sorry to interrupt, but for us, clearly the vision is that we have to be the top three in India. So that's what's driving us. We just have to make sure that we don't lose track and focus and we get there.
that's brilliant. And connected to this, like a next question, like you said earlier, that you switch off like after a certain time, and you believe, and that's your discipline and your mantra in life. But at the same time, it's harder to switch off during work from home right now. So how do you manage mental well-being for self and family, considering given the current times?
I don't think it's tougher to switch off. But yes, you have to be very, very communicative with your team. You have to let your team know the hours that you are available in, and you have to align it with your family. I have my kids are 10. They're boisterous. We also have a little puppy. There's a lot going on in the house. But I have to explain it to them. These are non-negotiable hours. This is my time to work. You cannot come to me. Right? Of course, if there's a crisis, I'll be there. Similarly, at work, I stop responding beyond a certain time. I need that time to myself. Of course, once in a while there could be a crisis and I'll leave it work at 1 o'clock at night. But those are exceptions. They should not be the rule. At least 80% of the time, you should be finding time to switch off.
I think that's very well said. I think communication is the key, and it's very important for us to kind of create that boundary for ourselves in order to not burn out and keep giving our best. Thank you so much. Thank you for this engaging session. It's been lovely talking to you, and I feel I could personally pick up so many points that were very insightful and would help us kind of move forward as new leaders in the industry. And I want to thank all the participants for being so lovely and highlighting such important questions. We're looking forward to seeing everyone next week for another fruitful conversation on transformational leadership and riding through the waves.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ragini. Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Richa. I would
Thanks.
once again like to acknowledge my thanks for your time on behalf of the team of Future Lista Feed Friday series. It's really, really inspiring knowing so much about you now at the personal as well as on the professional front. But it's about you in total, is what is significant for all of us. And I think what Priyanka shared the theme for this World Menstrual Hygiene Day. This is action and investment in menstrual hygiene and health. I think exactly is what your company is working on, where there is, I at least read a little bit more before coming over this conversation, and I understood that there's a lot more research that you people are doing to understand the climatic conditions that we are in India and how we can actually make sure that the sanitary napkins are very useful for those different climatic conditions, and we women are out of those rash problems at least
Yes.
if we can. So very interesting that I could pick up, and thanks once again, team, for putting it all together, and thank you, Richa, for a lovely and inspiring conversation today.
Thanks. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time and being here listening to me. I loved the conversation. Thanks a lot for the warmth.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Richa.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for being
Bye
an
bye.
inspiration. And thank you
Thanks.
for
Bye bye.
being a maker. Thank you.
Thank you.